You're listening to Talking Tech every Tuesday from 7 on Midlands 103.
Midlands 103.
What would you think if a friend or family member carried a camera around their neck all day, every day, photographing everything and anything that happens every 30 seconds or so? Well, it might sound a bit Big Brother-ish, but a group of researchers are doing this around the globe as we speak, photographing everything that happens in their daily lives. Journalist Simon Cox has been writing about this for the Sunday Times. Simon, welcome to the programme.
Hi there.
Now, Simon, at this stage, we're all familiar with blogging and what exactly that involves. But what's LifeLogging?
LifeLogging is taking that on a stage further, if you like. It comes down to basically where you have a digital diary of everything you do. So you will wear a camera from when you get up in the morning to when you go to bed, and that will be taking photos all the time when you're at work, when you're driving. You'll also wear an accelerometer, so you'll be able to tell where you're going, whether you're sitting, standing, walking. Some people even go as far as recording every phone call they will make. You will store every email you'd sent. Some people who do it, the kind of extreme life loggers, even notes that they'll make, they'll scan in. So you would have a complete digital diary of from when you woke up in the morning to when you go to bed. And the idea is you carry on doing that permanently.
But why, Simon, would we go to these lengths to record everything?
Well, I mean, there's obviously people who are just interested in technology and just want to take it a stage further. But the interesting application is all to do with, obviously, memory. So there are some experiments that have been going on where, for example, people with Alzheimer's or problems with memory loss will wear one of these cameras and then store data for a year in one case. There was an experiment back in 2007. And then when they went back and looked at it, they found that they remembered much more when they could actually physically see what they'd done rather than just trying to recall it from your memory. So they're hoping that maybe if you can search this, because that's really the big problem, you can record this stuff, you can store it on your computer, but how do you search for it? But if you can crack that, then you can go back and maybe by seeing what you've done on the 11th of September on a particular year, that might help to retain that memory. And that's the real hope. I mean, as well as the kind of social side of just, I'd like to be able to record as much as I can, that actually for memory and retaining memories, that it might be able to help us.
But what about privacy? Now, Mark Zuckerberg, he's famous for saying he'd like to see the end to privacy as far as Facebook is concerned. This is something, I know we were talking about it off air earlier on this evening. It's something that people might have a real problem with.
I mean, it's interesting because actually one of the centres of research of this is actually in Ireland at University College Dublin. They're trying to develop the first search engine for it. And some of the researchers who are working on that, the computer scientists, are actually doing life logging themselves. And when you ask them about, how do other people feel about it, friends, girlfriends, they say, interestingly, that people stop noticing after a short while that they're not too bothered about being photographed, because when you go out, especially if you're younger now, you're being photographed virtually doing everything that you're up to. But actually, if you were recording conversations, that was a step too far, that when they tried doing that, people stopped talking to them. But interestingly, some technology companies are already looking at developing blocking software so that if I go into a bar and I'm wearing one of these cameras or maybe an app that's connected to your smartphone, that if you don't want to be photographed, you'll also have an app that will block it. So they're already trying to think ahead about some of those difficulties. But certainly the people who are life logging, the people who are developing the technology, just think we will develop rules and etiquette around it. So if you don't want to be photographed, just say, look, don't put it on. Or in areas where, in the same way that you can block mobile phone calls, maybe you think, well, we'll put blockers in so that you can't record and film in particular places.
Now, these life loggers that are fully committed to it, do they photograph everything? Like, are there some things that really should remain in private?
When I ask that, it's an interesting question, because you think, we can all think, okay, there are some things I really wouldn't want to photograph. And they said there's probably about 2% of things that they don't. I mean, if they go to the loo, for example, or obviously, when they're in bed, they don't. So things that might embarrass other people or embarrass them, they won't. It's not that you have a total digital archive. I mean, there are some things you wouldn't want to, but all of the important things, the things you might want to look back on, they will photograph those. I mean, there's lots of people who do this are not just computer scientists or, particularly into technology. A lot of them will be artists who do this, actually, interestingly, around the globe. And they will be doing it as an expression of their artistic ability. Now, they may want to video and record everything because, interestingly, it's not just photos. I mean, talking to one of the researchers in Dublin, he was saying he was passing through an airport in Germany, picked up a pair of video sunglasses that can record for 4 hours. You wouldn't know that someone's videoing wearing them, less than €200. So the technology is cheap. And it won't just be photographing, it'll be videoing as well.
So what happens then if you have this stored somewhere, either on the net, on a website, or on your own computer at home or in the office? Can somebody else access it? If you've been getting up to something that maybe your partner wouldn't be too pleased with or your boss might be a bit unhappy about, how secure will it be?
And that's the key, actually, is the security. It's that it's for you. And it's your digital archive. So obviously, if you're storing it in a cloud system, you would want to know that it's something that only you can access. And that's one of the big privacy questions, actually. Probably the most thorny issue. It's not just about embarrassing things, but what about, if the government want to get their hands on it or the police want to get their hands on it? And if, it becomes very popular and takes off in the way that people think that it will, if you're not vlogging and you're not recording everything you do, all of your movements, well then, are you suspicious in some way? So I think the key, certainly from the people who are doing it at the moment, they say the storage has got to be all about only you being able to access it. And maybe some people were even talking to me about, the idea of a kind of Swiss data account where you would put your life in a Swiss account somewhere and only you could access it in the way that you can do, with banking. But I think in order for it to really take off, you would have certainty about that protection. And I just don't know whether at the moment enough people would feel that there is that security.
Is it something we're likely to be doing in the near future, or will it be something that could be occurring naturally in 5 or 10 years?
Well, the researchers in Dublin think they're going to have a fully functional search engine by the end of the year.
Wow.
And they're developing applications that, you can just connect to your smartphone and do it. So, the target market really is sadly not for me, is people who are in their teens, they think are the ones who will really make it take off. And it's all going to be about ease, really. If you can get an app on your phone and, that will allow you to record, because it's all about, obviously, battery life on your smartphones. They're notoriously terrible.
Exactly.
If you can develop that kind of battery life, and they think they're getting close to that, then they think it's going to develop, obviously, through teenagers and kind of people in their 20s who start doing it. But certainly the gurus of this in California, who started 15 years ago, are confident that by 2020, so less than 10 years now, that it will be commonplace, that people will be doing it. In the same way, look, Facebook didn't really exist 5 years ago, so in 9 years' time, who knows what happens.
You're listening to Talking Tech every Tuesday from 7 on Midlands 103.
Midlands 103.